Welcome to Sprague Homestead. So today we had a huge list of ideas to look through, and we were like, "Oh man, what do we come up with on everything?" And then Nikki sat down and said,
I I think I said I'm just worn out. Like I wasn't interested in filming for YouTube. I wasn't particularly interested in working. I didn't want to look at my phone anymore. I didn't want to answer any emails. Just flat worn out. Is anybody else feeling worn out?
"I know I am." So we thought, why not just put together a list of all the things that just are flat wearing us out? And so today, that's what we're going to talk about. The things that are wearing us out. So really, I think the minute you get up in the morning, at least for us, we typically get up. I turn my phone on because I don't need an alarm usually, and you immediately see the news. Whether you look on Facebook, on Instagram, or anything else, it's pretty hard to escape what's going on out there. And I think really most of the time, man, it just flat wears me out what's going on out there.
Well, and we went up to Portland a couple weeks ago, and people are not very nice either. And I mean, I think we've talked about that here lately too, is the attitudes of people are just, it seems like there's still a lot in Oregon that's closed, right? There's still not a lot of places you can go, and people are sick of the mask requirements, but everybody's in such a freaking hurry. And I felt like traffic was even worse. People are more likely to cut you off, yell, scream. I can't tell you how many times in the grocery store in the last 2 months I've been run over by other people's carts. Like, flat out. He finds it funny because it never happens to him, but I flat out get hit by carts all the time. And people glare at me like I'm the problem, which now I'm starting to feel like I'm a cart magnet, so maybe it is me. But there's just a general unease. And my cousin was here recently, and she said the same thing. It's just a general unease, and everybody's taking it out on everybody else. And like he was saying, when I turn my phone on in the morning, usually it's 5 or 6 emails, messages, whatever, from people who have problems with rabbits, which I'm happy to help. But it always makes me sad that there's so many people struggling to get started in their rabbits. I've got drama in some of the rabbit clubs that I'm in, particularly the one I'm president of. And, you know, especially this week, I'm getting constant weather alerts because I still track a lot of the hurricanes and stuff because we've got friends and family down there. And, you know, I'm seeing hurricanes come in and destroyed stuff. He's got family in Iowa, so you know that, what is it, Derico? Is that, I don't know how you say that, but that took out cornfields and soybean, and it just seems like everything is bad news. I can't remember the last time I turned on anything and it was positive.
It's hard to anymore.
And it's spilling over into YouTube again. We've had some really nasty comments again lately. And like I've said before, I'm used to, oh, you're a horrible person, you kill rabbits, whatever. I'm used to that. But it's back to the personal attacks. You know, people going after my weight. People going over his intelligence because they don't agree with him on stuff. Man, it's exhausting.
So I think beyond the people in general, another thing that's been crazy, like you said, the weather has been like insane this year, and we've barely done any gardening because of it. We didn't do a lot this year because, you know, we had all these big plans, and we did our extension on the house, and we did our mudroom and sunroom, and we never really got around to gardening. And the stuff we planted, we were like, this should be slam dunk things. Planted some tomatoes. We planted squash, cucumbers, collards.
Potatoes.
We planted stuff that we've planted every year, and typically every single year we don't have to touch it. We get sick of it because we have so much of it. And this year, the things that are like the slam dunks we don't do anything with, they have flopped completely. I think the only thing I would say has been like crazy good has been squash so far, cucumbers, and I want to say the collards have been going really well lately because I took over watering a couple weeks ago, and I'm probably overwatering, which makes them overgrow.
Yeah, they're happy with his watering. But Our potatoes are terrible. I mean, we watered them the same way we do every year. I amended the soil the same way that I amend every year. And we're going to get nothing. I'm probably going to have to buy seed potatoes in the spring because I'm not going to have a lot left over this year to reseed. They're just doing nothing. A lot of other stuff I planted did nada. Chard, I think half of my chard came up and it's not very big. It's just been crazy. We had a wetter spring than normal after a drier winter than we should have had. We got really wet in the spring, and then we like rolled over into high temperatures so fast that the stuff I couldn't start because it was too wet and too cold, suddenly we were too hot and too dry to keep enough moisture on it to get anything to germinate. It's just, the whole thing has just been wild. So luckily we keep a pretty stocked pantry. I overcan most years, so we've got plenty of stuff, but just super frustrating. You know, I like to eat fresh out of the garden. Canned stuff gets kind of old, but it just kind of is what it is.
So now beyond all that stuff, of course you guys that have followed us for a while know that I've been furloughed since May. A year ago, I would say that we probably saw the writing on the wall that it was coming. Well, hello. Come join us. And since then, we kind of knew, you know, we just had that kind of that feeling, right, that something was going to happen. It just, the auto industry was kind of falling short on demands, and, you know, things were just not going well there. And it's no secret, I guess, that things just didn't work out. The hardest part has been is that, you know, when you get to a certain point in life, and I'll say it's this way, that, high five, thank you. We've kind of built our property and everything based upon a dollar amount, right? The amount of salary you make every year. And it's hard to cut that down easily and quickly. That's the big thing. It's hard to quickly cut it down other than just fire selling animals and equipment and everything else. So the salary I was making, essentially because I'm on unemployment, is half. At best, it's half. And so for now, until it runs out. But this year we started out with some extra side things, right? A lot of my writing fell off, unfortunately, because some of that stuff got hit by COVID, where they didn't have budgets for writers.
On the other side of that, my rabbit sales went through the roof this spring.
And so, you know, we started our hip camp. Her rabbits have done really well. So it's like all this stuff that should have been positive has now been like evened out, if that. And I won't say we're struggling with it, but it's like, man, it's frustrating. It just flat wears you out every day because you're like, oh my gosh, what are we doing today that needs to make a profit? You know, it's like we did extra chickens to make some extra profit to roll it forward. Well, that didn't work out as planned necessarily to this point. And so it's like, well, it's going to even out. The rabbits went up, my writing went down, my job went down, these other things went up. And so we're almost like a even keel for the point. But I know as soon as winter hits, it's going to start going down and down and down because a lot of things are going to fall off because of winter.
Well, and even though the rabbit thing was really cool this spring of, you know, I helped a lot of people get started in meat rabbits, and that was pretty cool. On the other side of that, that's not, selling them as meat quality rabbits really only barely breaks me even, right? It doesn't make a profit by any stretch. So where I usually make a fair amount of money is in my show rabbits. I've put a lot of time and money into getting them where they are, and I do all right. I mean, I sell a pretty good amount, and with no shows means it's really hard to sell show rabbits right now. Some people are still building, you know, their herd and working on stuff because they believe the shows will come back. On the other hand, stuff is starting to cancel into 2021 already. So for stuff like my little rabbits, my little Triantas, we are making a trip tomorrow. Basically a great big loop. We're going to be gone about 12 hours really.
12, yeah.
To make a big loop to drop rabbits off because a lot of people are not willing to travel right now. especially to get a $70 rabbit. So I can spread it out on a tank of gas to enough people, and I think I've got, 9 rabbits going tomorrow, and I can just make it worth my time and energy, because I don't want to have to eat all these rabbits either.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be our second big trip in so many weeks.
Yep.
So on top of being tired of, we have pulled a lot of 14-hour days here lately. So it's on top of all that, now we're going to do another 12-hour car ride.
Yep.
To try and deliver rabbits. And it's, we work really hard, like harder than normal this time of year. Usually you can take an afternoon off and go see a movie or go do something, right? And you can't even do that right now. Our theater really isn't running.
Nope.
His car shows are canceled.
Yep.
And, it's just, there isn't the usual downtime things to do. We're not big TV watchers. We're not big gamers or any of that kind of stuff. So when you take our shows away,
yeah,
you take away our big outlets to go do stuff.
Yeah, if there's nowhere to go, we typically stay home and work.
Yeah.
That's what we do. And everybody's like, you should go do. You really can't. You can't take a whole weekend off to go, to the beach or to go on a trip or do anything else. This time of year, it's a 14-hour day. It's sun up to sundown, and typically we're out doing chores in the dark by headlamp.
Well, and right now the beaches, half the beaches don't want people from out of town, and some of the hotels have never really opened. Or the places that are open are so packed because everybody wants to go that there's just nowhere really to go right now.
Yeah, and like she said, there's no car shows. So, a lot of my clientele locally in that are people that I could talk to at car shows to drum up business. And if I can't go anywhere, they're not big YouTubers. They're not big people that sit home and watch YouTube looking for things like that. So any side work I can do really just generated out of that and word of mouth. And if they can't see my work in person, well, that means I don't really have any extra work. So it's been a struggle there.
And the other thing that's kind of making us a little exhausted is, the number of people that have gotten into homesteading in the last 5 years is increased. And that the last 5 years is even doubled over what the 5 years before that was. So it's great to see a lot of people coming into the lifestyle, but a lot of people are rushing into a lot of this out of sheer panic, and they're making really bad choices. And I think it's starting, I guess what's frustrating to me is it's really starting to impact a lot of the rest of us. Like, if you do much baking, you don't keep a lot of yeast on hand, right? Because yeast doesn't last forever. I keep a good little amount, but yeast, our local Walmart and a couple of the other stores has not had yeast since March because everybody got into this pandemic baking thing. I saw a study the other day that said talking about how less than 10% of people that started baking their own breads and things in March are still doing it. So how much yeast that the rest of us that actually bake would use is just sitting in refrigerators somewhere doing nothing. And right now, canning supplies are doing the exact same thing. We went to the store today, could not find a lid or a jar anywhere. I was in the store last week, and a lady and her son and her husband each went through the checkout line with a cart full of jars.
Right. They literally, as a family, bought the entire store out of canning stuff. And it's not like they were just doing it because they wanted to start canning. They did it out of sheer fear, which is it's driving crazy nationally. Canning stuff is getting hard to come by.
Well, they're saying there's a complete shortage. So what is out is pretty much all there is.
Mm-hmm.
And there is nothing out. Every store we've been to, you can't find a lid to save your life. The last time I saw jars, it's been the overpriced limited edition colored ball. But I looked on Amazon the other day out of curiosity, and what few jar lids you can find are like 4 times what they should be.
Yeah.
And even then, it's a couple of week wait to get them. I mean, it's crazy stuff. So it's a little frustrating and a little exhausting when you really have stuff that you need and you go in and there's nothing. Because, like, I keep enough of the standard size jar lids, but I don't keep a lot of the big mouth lids because I don't use them except for pickles. And what did I grow a lot of this year is cucumbers. So I have to be really careful from here on out about what exactly I do because I could run out of wide mouth lids. And that's frustrating to me because, you know, I read an article this morning. You'll have to remind me because now I've forgotten what it was, but like something like 80% of people.
Yeah, they did a poll and they said 80% of people that have gotten into canning this year
have never canned before.
Have never canned before. They just went out and bought brand new equipment, jars, lids, all the secure rings, all that stuff. They just bought everything out. And then they asked how many people of them, 80% admit are canned. And then
25% of them have no intention of canning. They bought the stuff simply to have it on hand. One lady said she had 20 cases of jars in this interview. She had 20 cases of jars, and she had bought enough lids to use every one of those jars 6 times. And when they asked her what she was canning this year, she said, I'm not canning anything. I bought it simply to have it in case it all goes bad.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
It's like... It's back to hoarding. I mean, it's toilet paper all over again.
Yeah, it's the
like,
latest toilet paper.
Do you really need like 12 shopping carts or a pallet full of toilet paper? It's like, I might, so I'm going to go buy it.
And we're not saying there's anything wrong with being prepared. We keep a lot of stuff here because we've been snowed in the winter. And, that's a whole nother thing. But to go out and buy all these canning supplies when you have no intention of doing it, yeah, it's just flat hoarding. And every time I read another article, they're talking about more potential food shortages. We have, 60% of the normal yield expected in potatoes nationally this year. Mm-hmm. They don't even know the full impact of what's happened in Iowa. We know that pork is going to start to be a bigger deal from all the swine that were killed in the Midwest earlier this year. Beef is in a similar boat.
Yep.
Not to mention, if you've got your own, you can't find a butcher to do anything with it right now. I mean, the ones out here are booked out like 6 to 9 months in a lot of cases. There's still reports coming out that because of the way they did turkeys, that there will be a turkey shortage by Christmas. And poultry, like chicken, is looking very similar. So it's just a little frustrating.
The scary thing is, and I'll say this, if you're watching this means get ready because it's coming, is that when the general public really figures this out, right? They finally, the light bulb goes off and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm about to be out of turkey, chicken, pork, beef, anything like that. You know what's going to happen? Everybody's going to run to the store and completely buy everything out.
Which is what they did in March.
Which is what they did in March. So if you go to the store after watching this, really pay close attention to the stuff that's low quantities, not out. But look at the low quantities. Your meat selection will probably be smaller than normal, if not to a minimum level. Yes, you're still going to have paper goods, but notice all the stuff that's just flat out and ask how long it's been out, because a lot of stuff will have been out that nobody's recognized yet, at least the general public. And when this happens, people are going to hoard up on it, oversell it, overprice it and that, or it's just flat, you're not going to get it anymore.
And the pricing is going up too, because remember, we bought some flavored chicken wings out of the store the other day.
Yep.
And we like to have a few of them on hand in the summer because they're quick and easy. And 3 months ago, we were paying $7.99 a bag. They're now $8.99 a bag. So it's like that's a huge increase when you go from $8 to $9.
Yeah.
In a matter of a couple months. It wasn't a gradual thing. I mean, it shot up $1 a bag.
And I think the last thing has probably worn us out a lot this year is that it seems like there's no imagination left. Now, granted, it makes us crazy when movies are relaunched again and again and again. I mean, The Nutty Professor is on version 3. It's coming soon. It gets old when Hollywood does it, but honestly, it trickles down. And we've seen a lot lately of other new creators out there not really being similar to other channels, but it's almost to the point like they're just flat stealing ideas. And it's not like I want to be similar to somebody or I like what they did, so I'm going to give them credit for it. It's flat showing up, stealing the information, and then presenting it as if they're the smartest person in the room.
And we've had a couple of these this year where titles to videos have flat out been hijacked. Some of the things that I say in some of the rabbit videos, it has come to my attention, are being parroted in other channels, and it's frustrating. It's really frustrating. I mean, I'm glad the information's getting out there, but if somebody wants to use some of the information I've got, just, a courtesy email would be fine. But that's not, that's the clickbaity titles. The new channels are getting into clickbaity titles, just like some of the other big channels. And it's just, we're back to people who have been on YouTube. One of them I looked at this morning that's been on for 5 months, and they're putting out 4 videos a week, and they're trying to teach people all kinds of stuff that
they've never done before.
They haven't really done yet. I mean, that's great if you've done something once and it turned out okay. Can you repeat what you're doing? Because I see stuff that they're doing that I think you got really lucky that you had success the first time, because that's probably not going to work a second or a third, but they're out there teaching it because it worked one time. And this is part of why we got into YouTube to start with, is the bad information. And it seems like there's a lot of, during this time of a lot of people being laid off or furloughed or just flat out having lost their jobs, a lot of people are rushing to YouTube thinking this is going to be the time to make a living off of it. And it's just bad information and borderline dangerous information, I think, sometimes. It's just kind of frustrating to sit and watch it all.
Well, I mean, the cool thing is, the longer they do this stuff, the more they fail, and they're gonna go away.
Maybe
it's gonna be that. Now, there's gonna be plenty out there that don't really offer anything good and valuable on information, but they're entertaining enough that people will still follow them because they're goofy and funny, and they'll keep going on. They're not really teaching you anything, but rather than stream Amazon Prime, you click on YouTube and watch 2 or 3 of these channels that are just zany enough to keep you entertained for 20 minutes at a time or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I would say just be careful of the stuff that's out there. I don't want to sit here and say that you should follow us because we're the only experts out there.
Yeah, anyway.
There are some really good people out there teaching some really good things. But you got to vet them out. There's too many new people out there just trying to do the attention grab to make the money, to do everything, and they're not really there for your benefit. They don't care that if you can following them and they got lucky and you are off one certain thing and you blow up your kitchen. They don't really care for that, but there are channels that out there that they really want to be perfect on their information to make sure that you can be successful enough to give it another shot.
Yeah.
So hopefully with that, even though it's long, everything is just wearing us out. I mean, it's the 14-hour days, we get it, that's the lifestyle we lead, but man, there's just so much else going on that is just flat wearing us out.
It's hard to be excited about anything right now. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I just feel like the clock is ticking down to this election in November, And no matter which side of the fence you're on, nobody is going to be happy. There's nobody that I have talked to that is either, pro-Trump and okay if Biden wins, or pro-Biden and okay if Trump wins. No, they're flat out angry. And I just see even more tensions escalating and things getting uglier by November. I mean, just...
It's going to be a race to the bottom, honestly.
It
And the ones
sure feels like it.
left holding the bag, well, it is. I'll tell you from the job front, it's a race to the bottom because I'm now having to compete for work with people that are fresh out of school. I've got 20 years of experience. I'm competing with people that have 20 seconds of experience for the same value because there's not enough work. And it's that way across the board, unfortunately. So there's
everybody's starting to undercut each other in everything, like livestock.
Yep, starting to get desperate on that. Everybody's starting to just be as cheap as possible and get it quick turned over. It's not about the quality anymore. It's about the quantity and the quick buck. And I've seen it over and over and over on everything we've done so far this year. And the closer we get to the end of the year, that's exactly what's happening.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have in this area, we've always had a pretty consistent pricing for meat rabbits. And even though a lot of people jacked them way up this spring, I held to what was normal. And by the time I sold out, I had noticed the price jabs, that people were cutting money off of them to the point where what few seem to be available to me are way too cheap. But that also goes with the fact that they're crap. The quality on it is just crap. There are people who rushed in early this spring, got a litter or two, don't know what they're doing, and they're selling these crappy rabbits for dirt cheap and flooding the market with them already. And it's just going to make it that much harder for the rest of us.
Yep.
Just kind of frustrating for me.
So I would assume everybody else is probably a little bit worn out. What are the things that you guys are worn out with? It's not going to be the exact same thing. You can't say ditto, we're worn out because of this. What are the things that hit you every day? What bothers you when you wake up in the morning or before you go to bed at night? What's, affecting your sleep patterns? What are the things that make you just go, oh my gosh, no more of this? We want to hear about it.
Or making you worried or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of things to be concerned
They're out
about
there
right now.
So put those down in the comments for us. This is a great time to have a discussion about it. I mean, you never know. Leaving a comment down below of things that are bothering you or where you're having trouble, you never know, another viewer may actually have a solution that would work for you that you haven't thought of yet. That's been some of the coolest things we've seen, that people can actually discuss back and forth.
I will say this, and normally I wouldn't feel like I have to, but if you are not one of our subscribers, if you've just stopped by to watch this video, if you want to tell us all about how we're big whiners in the comments, save it. I'm going to delete it anyway. I am sick of everybody's negativity. I'm sick of the complaining. If you have nothing positive to contribute to the conversation, take it elsewhere. We're not interested. That's how fed up I am.
So with that, we're going to end this now because somebody is flat worn out.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. From Sprague Homestead, we'll see you next time.
Hang in there. Happy homesteading.